Hey everybody, this is Mr. Moppin coming at you again with part 2 of the APUSH topic 3.7 focus on the Articles of Confederation. Last time we talked about the formation of this government and the motivations behind it. So just remember, that this is a new national government for the United States that clearly is designed to have a weak national government. Clearly designed for that. No executive branch, no judicial branch, very limited legislative powers, and this is all by design, which means that it's a reaction to previous colonial rule. Think about it. This is a group of people that felt for years that they were tyrannized by a far too powerful national government, a government that was far away from their daily lives, that felt that it was just entered their lives to just, make their lives more difficult and more burdensome. Same thing kind of applies with this new American government under the Articles. They did not want a faraway government outside of their own state to be telling them what to do. And so the thought process was that, if a strong national government is tyrannical, well, then a weak national government must be good. It must work. Now, that's logic, but as we will learn, that logic is not going to prove to be true. But before we get into the clear failings of the Articles of Confederation, let's take a little bit of time to take a look at the accomplishments of this new plan for government. One of these major accomplishments will be the negotiating of very favorable terms in the Treaty of Paris. You may recall that we talked about how the Treaty of Paris is going to allow this new United States to extend all the way from the Atlantic all the way to the western border of England, where it had been England, at the Mississippi River, north to the Great Lakes region in Canada, and south down towards Florida. So an immense expanse of territory that's going to be negotiated by this new Articles government. And speaking of territory, we're going to be seeing the land ordinance playing a critical role in what to do with these western frontier lands. Now, once again, remember that these 13 states had originally, at least some of them had, designs on extending their borders to the west, but an agreement was made not to do that. And in addition, the Land Ordinance of 1785 is going to be responsible for basically organizing this territory that is going to be really, really critical to kind of deciding what's going to happen out here. Now, if you can take a look out here to your left, you'll notice that these frontier territories included future states like Ohio, Illinois, etc. And note the way that they would divide up this territories. They would take an expanse of land, maybe a county or something, and then they would organize it into what are going to be 6 mile by 6 mile zones known as townships. And we still see that designation today. For example, many of you live in Hamilton Township, some of you live in Salem Township, some of you live in Harlan Township, but a township was designed to be approximately 36 square miles. But within that township, as you can see right here, you're going to be seeing that these are going to be subdivided even further into what are going to be 36 sections. Each section is going to be a 1 mile by 1 mile square territory. And you can see how they would number these on a typical square township map right here. Now, in addition to kind of creating a sense of organization for how to divvy up this territory and land and things like that, you can also see what is also going to be a priority of the Articles of Confederation government. And they get a lot of credit for the promotion of public education, particularly in what are going to be these future northern states. As you can see here under the Land Ordinance, in each township, one of these 1 by 1 mile square sections is going to be reserved for construction of a public school, a township school. Now note, these township schools are not like schools today that are, like a high school or an elementary school or things like that. This is still, the era of the one-room schoolhouse, so you would have kids from, 6 to 16 technically in the same building, but the idea that the national government is prioritizing this and making this important, it really sends a loud message that, this is one of the responsibilities of government, is the promotion of education. So anyhow, be aware of the key significance of organizing territory via the Land Ordinance of 1785. The other big accomplishment that we're going to be seeing under the Articles is the creation of the Northwest Ordinance 2 years later in 1787. Now, once again, there were concerns about some of the pre-existing states, basically extending their claims all the way towards the Mississippi River. But at least north of the Ohio River, we're going to be seeing that, dealt with permanently, with the law being passed to take each of these areas in what they were now calling the Great Northwest at the time, and taking this territory and turning it into future states. The Northwest Ordinance is going to stipulate that all of this area of the quote-unquote Great Northwest out here is going to be divided up into anywhere from 3 to 5 states. Now, as you can see here, these states are, it's eventually going to be 5 states that do get created. You've got Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin, and of course, our own beloved Ohio. And at the end of the day, it really is the Northwest Ordinance that is going to cement this idea of there being a future Ohio. And note, what is also going to be significant is that in the Northwest Ordinance, they're going to be stipulating that each of these new states, like the eventual Ohio, will have all the same rights and privileges and equal status as the pre-existing 13 states have. So it also sets a tone that, we're not going to be creating states and colonies on the continent. It's going to be states and territories, and then those territories will become states, and when they do, they're equal like everybody else. Another key component of the Northwest Ordinance is the fact that slavery will be banned, and this is going to lead to a long-lasting border area between areas that will allow slavery, like the future Kentucky and already existing in Virginia, but north of the Ohio River is going to be barred from having slavery. So as we'll get deeper into the course, the Ohio River is going to have great significance as being kind of the boundary between the free North and the enslaved South. So be mindful of that. Additionally, when we talk about this new land that is going to be opened up, this is going to be, public land that is going to be sold at auction. Now, what's going to happen is that this territory is going to be gobbled up very quickly by the already wealthiest Americans at this time. And what happens is that you've got these, very, very wealthy folks that will then have all of this new territory out in the West, and then they turn it into a speculative business, basically taking land that they will never really use and then selling it off to folks that do actually plan to use that land for setting up farms and businesses and things like that. So what this does is allow wealthier Americans to become even wealthier through the speculation of land. But unfortunately, when you are getting involved in speculative projects like land purchasing, as we've seen in other industries, for example, housing, and we've seen it with baseball cards and comic books and the stocks in history, that this is not exactly a stable business. That, in other words, prices can go way high, they can drop, and this will be the cause of a few major economic downturns. At least this practice of land speculation will be a cause of many economic downturns as we get into the 19th century. Now, when we do talk about the Articles of Confederation, it is important to know its accomplishments, but we mostly associate the Articles with its many problems, and the problems will ultimately be too much for the nation to handle. What do some of these problems include? Well, part of it is going to be poor ability to deal with foreign policy matters. First off, we made arrangements in the Treaty of Paris to pay off a lot of our foreign debts, particularly to Britain. We do not have the money to do it because nobody's paying taxes, or at least very little taxes. So we have no way to pay our foreign debts at a national level. Since we have no national military, no national executive branch, we do not have a mechanism to enforce some of the provisions of the Treaty of Paris in terms of recognizing the independence of a lot of the forts that are on the frontier, particularly in the Great Lakes region. Bottom line, in the Treaty of Paris, Britain was to abandon any of their forts that were on what is now American territory. Well, guess what? They really hadn't done it. They still are maintaining these frontier forts, and we don't have a military to stop them. That shows incredible weakness on the global stage, that we really cannot do anything to even maintain the sanctity of our border. Domestically, in terms of financial problems, we aren't able to pay domestic debts as well. So you've got a situation where, just bottom line, we are broke as a joke as a nation, and this is going to be problematic economically. We're going to be seeing inflation being a major problem. A lot of folks are going to be poor. A lot of folks are going to be struggling to make it. States are tariffing the heck out of each other, which is only going to make border issues with these various states increase tension. So what you've got now is an environment, due to the framework for the government, though well-intentioned, the idea being is, a weaker national government must lead to better government. More freedom must mean better success. But in fact, it's not proving to be true. We are internationally weak. We are financially a mess. And then this creates the environment for what is going to be Shays' Rebellion. Shays' Rebellion is going to be an uprising of farmers in rural Massachusetts. A lot of these folks were veterans of the Revolutionary War. These were guys that had been promised their pay. They had been given promissory notes from the Articles of Confederation government, the Continental Congress, that they would get paid. They have not gotten paid yet. Because the economy is so bad, you are seeing foreclosures on land left and right. You are even seeing the use of debtor prisons to enforce folks to pay off their debts. Taxes are rising. And so for many of these folks that had fought and sacrificed for a new government, a government that would allow for real freedom, is finding that there's a lot of tyranny going on, at least in their minds, a lot of tyranny going on. They're losing their land. They are going in debt. This is problematic. And this uprising of farmers is going to really scare these colonial leaders. When this uprising takes place, we're going to be seeing that tax collectors are going to be assaulted. We're going to be seeing courts being shut down due to what is really going to be mob violence in what's happening here. And this is going to be a test of the Articles in terms of, can the Articles defend itself from an uprising of a bunch of farmers? And the answer is, well, basically no. The Massachusetts militia really can't do it on its own. There is no national military to enforce what's going on, to defend these states. And so what you actually see happening is that some of these wealthier people in Massachusetts society, like John Hancock, actually hiring mercenaries to come in and aid the Massachusetts militia to put down what is going to be just a rebellion of a bunch of poor farmers. What would happen if, Britain or France decide to invade? What would happen if you actually had a very well-organized and well-funded domestic uprising? It was clear that even though Shays' uprising will finally get put down, it shows that this national government is incredibly weak. It cannot provide the basic things that people need. They need a government that provides safety. They need a government that provides, basic economic stability. They need a government that will allow us to be respected on the global stage. And the Articles, though well-intentioned, though it dealt with a lot of frontier land issues very well, it took a good stance on slavery in the Northwest Territories. Bottom line, though, the verdict has come in following Shays' Rebellion, and this new government, unfortunately, is a failure. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be the reason why we go back to the drawing board in 1787 and start to work on this new, better plan for government that we still operate today, known as the Constitution. So we're going to leave it there for today. We're going to bury the Articles and move on to something better. See you next time. Bye-bye.